We have technical session 5, fair use and content privacy in the age of generative artificial intelligence. Would I request the moderator, Dr. G.R. Raghavendra, Senior Consultant, IPR, Government of India, to please present on the stage. Speakers, Mayank Sood, Dr. Sachin Kumar Agrawal, Harini Niveda, Sachin Kalra ji, Manish Kumar Mishra ji. I request all of you to please come to the stage.
Vande Mataram. Good afternoon to all the IP family members who are assembled in this ballroom. I'm Dr. G.R. Raghavendra. I'm a Senior Consultant, Intellectual Property Law, former Joint Secretary, Government of India. And my right side, Dr. Sachin Kumar Agrawal, Director, AISU, Center for Excellence and Innovation, and Mr. Manish Kumar Mishra, partner, Intel Advocate, and next to left side, Mr. Mayank Sood, partner in K&S law firm, and Ms. Harini Niveda is a corporate lawyer, legal from Mumbai. The topic is very interesting. You must have already come to know about the importance of AI and the problems posed by AI. Now, we basically dealing with the moving away from what the session chaired by Hans Godard. The topic is fair use and content piracy in the age of generative AI. My pattern of discussion here on this topic, 3 minutes each, we give our opening remarks, and followed by that, I'll be asking a couple of questions, the basic inputs given by the respected panelists. And then we'll close it with one sentence closing statement. Finally, what is the panelist is thinking about the fair use and content piracy in the generative AI era. Artificial intelligence has posed a lot of problems. You must have come to know that the authors, the leading authors from the US and EU, they filed cases in Supreme Court of United States saying that the basic learning of the artificial intelligence, whether it is LLM-based ChatGPT or the learning-based generative AI, machine learning or deep learning-based, are accessing the content without consent and also without paying royalties, that is the compensation. It is infringement of copyright. Because as a person who have been in the bilateral and multilateral negotiations, I remember as a chief negotiator for the Marrakesh Treaty, which gave access to public works to the blind and visually disabled. While extending this, we always thought about the Article 9 and 10 of the Berne Convention, where exceptions are given. The very formulation of 9(2), the three-step test came. Any exception is given to the person who has a legal copy in the hand. Whatever the teaching exceptions are there, the research exceptions are there, news and current affairs exceptions, that is the concept of fair use, which comes in the comes from the US copyright law, and the fair dealing, which originated from the UK copyright law and spread to its colonial countries like India, Australia, New Zealand, South Africa, and Canada, are general exceptions and limitations, which EU calls it. They never call it as a fair dealing concept or a fair use concept. They call it limitations and exceptions. That's what you find in all the international law. Because only in the Marrakesh Treaty we try to include the fair use and fair dealing in a different way to help the many countries to introduce these kind of exceptions in the law. Because fair use is based on the Hobart versus Fosper case, 4-factor test introduced, purpose of the fair use, character of the fair use, amount of content you have taken and whether that is affecting the commercialization of that work. And fair dealing is not explained, but the similar thing in CCH Canada versus Law of Upper Society Canada Supreme Court mentioned about 6 factors test, and then Indian court tried to respect it. But here, very learning is infringement of copyright or not. When generative AI came, the next level of the creativity, not only the text-based creativity, which ChatGPT, which started somewhere around in March, generative AI, which spread, whether it is stable diffusion or mid-journey, they are doing all the artistic work and music creations and video creation, take your photograph and convert it. So most of the things done by generative is a derivative work. The existing content they are redoing. So whether such derivative work, what we call in Copyright Act adaptation, the very first definition in the Copyright Act section 2 is the adaptation. There, the creating a derivative work, literary work out of artistic work, or artistic work out of a literary work, any this kind of adaptation, these things, you have to take a consent, license, and pay compensation, royalties. All these things are not happening. All these things are not happening. But what this generative AI or LLM models like OpenAI has created, ChatGPT, are saying that, look man, you are the guys who are using this. And you, the user should be responsible. They give examples like photocopy machine, mobile telephone with the camera, and camera per se, and also any other machine which is generating content. No, the user is responsible, not we. We are given a technology, OpenAI, ChatGPT, Google's Bard, like this. There's many other things, and IIT Mumbai is working out with come out with a Bharat GPT. That's what I come to know. If all these things are come, who is responsible? When you have your mobile, you are responsible. The morning, Napita was mentioning about the person behind the automatic driverless car. If any accident happens, person who's given prompt is responsible. So let us spread this, get the views of our colleagues. From first time, let the girls start the discussion. Harini, 3 minutes for you.
Yeah. Hi. Thank you here. It's very privileged to share the dais with the other delegates who are there here with me. Right. I'm going to also slightly touch upon a lot of aspects that Dr. GR mentioned, and then go on, right? So he first started off saying, right, I'm basically trying to take the conversation into AI training processes, right? Whether it's like infringement, and if we are going to say it's infringement, and it is actually. So how does the exception of fair use then come in there? So large language models essentially, and our tech expert on the dais would agree, most of you all by now also know that it is basically getting trained generically as the first step by exposure to quite a bit of data, right? And then there is a fine-tuning that happens to some specific high-quality data. So where does this data come from, right? Data is either available in the public domain, or there's a very good chance and a high rate that it is copyright protected, right? And sometimes even pirated data. These data are fed into these language models to be able to come up with whatever the output that the Gen AI they're trying to do. Now, of course, so he also mentioned how if we don't take permission, any unauthorized use for the copyrighted content is going to fall under the infringement domain. So then what's the automatic question leads to, then whether we are going to, and also we've seen in recent suits that the defense that come up is that it is for fair use, right? And as sir rightly pointed, not a Indian terminology, it's a foreign terminology. In the Indian Act, we use the term fair dealing, right? And those 3 points of the amount of the data that the outcome is, infringing on, substantiality of it, the purpose of what the use has been, and whether there has been any effect on the competition, right? So to take an example, the recent case law of the New York Times suing the Gen AI aspect there, we have the main submissions is this aspect of the competition bit, because their submissions have been to the extent that there's huge paraphrasing of the New York Times content, to this extent that, and even verbatim content, to the extent that there's no requirement for clicking on the links of the articles, but just, reading the summaries. So there is directly an effect. So then what is it that we look? So we can simply say fair use, or we are going to talk about just the non-commercial aspect. As long as that is there, then it will not be considered as, infringement. Or do we go a step further and look? And if we do, then what is it that looking at it? Because when I see, right, we are also exploring options to build some AI tools, and we know obviously what AI tools can actually give us. Then how do you do it without infringement? Yes, there's obviously the thought of trying to figure out permissions, and in what way. That's going to be a big Pandora's box, which will open options and ways to handle. And if it's just going to be on the fair use defense bit, then instead of just saying fair use, can we say anything more? And I think there, if with sir's permission, if I can say that the Singapore IP office has come up with some additional guidelines where they are allowing for computational data analysis and for training of machine learning, and in such cases, it will fall under the exception. And I think interestingly, the distinction they are trying to make is not just saying it's fair use, or saying if you're using it for a non-commercial purpose, you can consider it as fair use, but making a distinction between what you're using that data for. If you're going to take the data and train it, and you're going to optimize workflows, or you're going to better analyze that, or whether you're going to simply take it and produce further text or further images, right? And I think that distinction is what is going to make the difference. And I think this is just one example of specific rules that we should definitely look at. This is very scratching the surface, really, but on how the technology works, which Sachin might
we'll go to technology, Harini.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
The question is, the creativity by large language model based AI like ChatGPT, or generative AI model like the stable diffusion or mid journey is originality. Because other day I was speaking in Mumbai at the international conference of CSAC, IPRS and APMA. The foreign delegates were there and organized by under the leadership of Javed Akhtar. The question is, Javed Akhtar's songs are available on internet, but few songs are available on his desk, not been digitized. Can ChatGPT sneak into his drawing room and read that and come out with the data? No. So it is learning from whatever the patterns, data available. So I believe that it is only creating a derivative work, but not the original work. What do you say, Mr. Manish, on that? And also about the ensuing piracy without consent and compensation.
Thank you, Dr. Raghavendra. That is the core question of copyrightable work generated through AI with respect to human intervention or without human intervention. It has been debated across the globe that whether the work created through AI is copyrightable or not. So US declined the work which was sought to be protected. In India, as you all might be knowing, there was an app called Raghav, and the lawyer named Ankit Sahni, he applied for as a co-author. That was granted, but later on Copyright Office asked to withdraw. But recently, Beijing Internet Court, they have come out and they have granted protection to the author of the work, the image which was created with the help of AI. And very interestingly, the court has upheld the infringement claim of the author. However, the court has not dealt into those issues whether if the work is wholly created by AI or with the intervention of the human intervention. So that area still needs to be adjudicated, and we are looking forward and will be discussing on those lines also.
Thank you, Manish. You gave very good, interesting examples. I'll come back to you, a lot of questions to ask you. And then before we take a deep dive into technology, how LLM works or machine learning, or in case something is not typeset document, but the written, handwritten one, which is scanned, how computer vision captures that and gives you information out of that. That will go deep dive with technical expert later, but I just want to go to Mayank before that. Mayank will be explaining about the authorship and infringement, especially whether very concept of fair use, which I feel as a copyright person, wrongly applied in Google book case, which American Authors Guild lost it with the wrong implementation of fair use transformative. I don't see any transformative. When I did my PhD, I did not buy many books. Those few important pages were available from those books, from the Google. I saved money, I saved time also, and did not go to library. Yeah, please, Mayank.
Thank you, Dr. Raghavendra, and very good afternoon to all of you. Of course, there are basically two questions revolving around whole of this issue as to copyright generated by AI. And these two are the primary questions, and of course, then there are so many other questions that follow from them. First question is, I can call it, as a input question. And that's what we are dealing with here, is whether using copyright content is a fair use or not. So that's an input question, because you are giving input to the AI model and then you are generating something out of it. And second question could be an output question as to who owns the copyright over a work created using or created by a AI model. So when we look at, let's say the output model, I'll go to output model first, because also to carry on forward from Mr. Manish, who was talking about a case in Beijing that was decided recently. So in that case, the court in Beijing came out with a very interesting observation and judgment, where they injuncted an infringer of a copyright. And this copyright was owned by a person who had actually taken help of an AI model to create his image or photograph. And the Beijing court decided, when deciding this, they also looked into the facts of the case. The facts of the case said that this person who created this image using AI model he used his intelligence. He gave several prompts and did several iterations to that image before he reached the final image. So when he applied that intelligence over that particular AI model, and finally he arrived at that image. So, and also not only that, while giving several prompts, the prompts could be around how the hue of the picture would look like, how the saturation, how the angle of the lady, in which angle she is sitting, in which color tone he wants the lady to be in, and in this case it was a South Asian lady. So all of that, the Beijing court said that yes, there is a human intellect has gone, and also in India we have a principle of modicum of creativity. So that also comes into play. So whether this principle can be applied within this space or not, so that is one question. Now this, of course, when there are prompts given, there is single prompt given and some image is arrived at, whether that would be modicum of creativity or not. So that has again a question of law that needs to be decided on. Secondly, coming to the first, whether the input question, whether the work created by the or work taking help of all the data available over the internet, and when the data is taken, whether the AI is using AI is a fair use or not. So in that, it will be very helpful to understand that is it derivative or is it transformative? So the debate is between both of these terms. When it is derivative, we very well know that it's actually infringement. But when it's transformative, and in this case, that is one of the defense taken by most of the AI model companies, that the work that they are creating is transformative. But again, another defense that they take is that they are not using it. They are just creating some model. They are not the final users of that model. Final users should be looking at what they are creating. So they are putting the responsibility and the onus on the users, basically the businesses who are going to subscribe to these AI models. So what the businesses should be doing over there, how should they modulate their contracts, how should they deal with these AI models, or when subscribing to them. That is one very important aspect to look at.
Thank you, Mayank. You have explained very well about the two important exceptions, limitation concepts of the transparative model, which flows from the fair use. And that's why it is very open-ended, fair use. Whichever new technology comes, it addresses. And and also the explains the derivative. The very birth of copyright started with the birth of new technology, that is Gutenberg's printing machine, that forced the UK to introduce first copyright law, Statute of Anne. And then moved on. Technology came, gave various challenges, and the major problem was the Internet 1.0, when it came that needed for the Internet treaties. Then 2.0 came, the interactive Internet. Now we don't know, 3.0 is coming, the decentralized Internet, which will be run by AI, blockchain, and metaverse and everything. So all the new technology, the technology expert is here. He will explain how this large language model or generative AI start doing the text mining, data mining, the mining of data collection from the data sets or documents, and most tokenization happens. And then finally, the learning patterns and data sets, finally, it gives out the product. So let him explain the
Thank you, Dr. Raghavendra, and thank you all for being this part. I think it's good time to discuss, because we are in just early stage or early era of AI development, and when it's just getting up, so it's right time to do a discussion, do a brainstorming, and getting awareness. And thanks for asking a very important question, because sometimes we hear lots of things, and even sometimes when I talk to people, they say like AI is going to cover this much, and where the human intelligence will come. So here I would say like human intelligence is on earth is not, I would say, can be replaced by AI, because human intelligence is human intelligence, and humans are made to do lots of more things. I think there's a time just we are slightly migrating certain automation or certain things which we are doing regularly, as a pattern to our AI models, and which I think Mayank and my friends were discussing about. It's more data oriented because it's not the time that machine would think it out. And I think he was giving the best example, like something is residing in the room and AI cannot come and just read and just decide it out. So it's very data oriented, that's very factful, yes. And the thing is like AI just is more, yes, data oriented, and the right usage is quite important on the data. And so first of all, let's say when I come to the model side, yes, definitely it needs some data, it needs some public private data, or maybe it needs some, maybe the GenA has the capability about synthetic data generation. So synthetic data generation also a new approach is emerging. It's a technology point of view where we don't violate any data policy, I would say policy or the privacy. So, and we can use it and leverage and maybe give to the society back with certain, I would say, generated content or the predictions, I would say, which is something I have felt in healthcare also. It's quite important. It's getting emerged, right? So before even waiting for actual data, people can do lots of simulation, and it can speed up, I would say. That is also the one trend is emerging where simplicity is there, that you cannot beat everything as a real data, but you can look at how the synthetic data approach, which can be based on LLM models, and use this concept or the technology to make this data prediction available. And I would just say when the technology is growing, everything has this like pros and cons, and usage is quite important to see. So even when I say like right information to be used or to be presented at the right point of time, that should be the purpose of AI, so that it should be correctly available to the person, and that is the role behind it about the AI. And that should be the consideration while we collect or we be collecting or using our data for the model. Another important thing I want to add that AI cannot also look at about the beyond the human imagination. So which I think intellectual resides along with human. So once we leave our traditional things of doing things with machines, then maybe we are made to do lots of things, because you never know, like COVID came all of a sudden, we were not prepared for our living life or about hospitality, medical, healthcare, etc. But all things got changed and we got as a challenge, and everybody throughout the world together came up with the lots of innovation and solutions. So we never know after 30 years, 40 years, what is going to come. So that's the reason that sometimes we ask as an AI to, okay, we should leverage things or use the machine, but we have to do lots of things in the future. So I would suggest that I think that's the data is, I would say, if it is used in the one word, I would say bounded input, bounded output. If data has been preserved properly, I would say maintained properly, right algorithms are applied into it, but say there are lots of concepts like data chunking is also used, where we apply the data, we put it into the vectorization, and a data chunking is there. Then on that we do a learning and a kind of generation prediction, or maybe applying for the next set of generation. So if it is a very bounded input, bounded output, then I think it's like a very structured system under the control of, I would say, certain governance, policy. Definitely we need to respect the copyright, intellectual properties. And if it is work in a predefined, enclosed matter or the method, I think that's a win-win situation to all of us. And I think that is the purpose of this forum.
Thank you, Dr. Sachin. You know, I have a couple of questions begin with you pertaining to technology. Actually, what I understand is AI is nothing but a general purpose assisting tool. It can't replace a human. Now, the present artificial intelligence technology, as all the panelists were speaking about the large language models, LLMs, which ChatGPT, which uses natural language processing. Based on that, they collect data, learning mechanism, which whether it is in generative AI or the LLM models, supervised learning will be method they adopt when the systematic data is there, unsupervised learning when unsystematic data is there. But all these things are happening. Even the prompts are being given either, that's what Shira Palmater, the registrar of copyright of the US Copyright Office, my friend, she rejected a couple of cases saying that, you know, AI can't be author because the prompts are given, which in the morning session they're all mentioning about the section 2A6, which says that the person behind the computer generated works is the author. The person is the author, natural person, or the legalistic or juristic person. So all these things happening, so much problem people are thinking because it is a low AI or a weak AI. Tomorrow the strong AI will come. That is already that names are given, that artificial general intelligence, and next up is artificial super intelligence. If these things come, and my friend was saying that, you Raghavendra ji, you always, the person says only person will get, because person will get copyright or IP, because IP system based on the incentive base. Incentives are given to human beings to sustain, so that they will create more and innovate more, and based on those incentives, they sustain their lives, and they continue, they get married and have children, have a beautiful home and car, and then start creating more and innovating more new, they're bringing new technology. Why do you want to give IP rights to machine? That's what I say. This is my concept. So he said, no, strong AI coming. AI is going to be sentient. It will have a feel, touch, roega, hasega, create karega. Bhaiya, Raghavendra ji, you have to give rights then. As a policy maker, government में बैठे हो, तुम्हें amend करना पड़ेगा. मैं तुम नहीं दूंगा. What do you say?
I just hear one example, but very well question asked by Dr. Raghavendra ji, that some superficial AI or very high level, the name could be different, and that is also something like generative AI or LLM model just a start, maybe because after or before this OpenAI, the way of definition was different in AI world for prediction, getting things or getting problems solved, I would say. But Gen AI changed the strategy of getting things done in business, and that's why Gen AI is one thing. So maybe rather there are lots of concepts are emerging, like explainable AI, sustainable AI. So those concepts are also emerging, I would say. And it looks like this delta has been just started. And if it is just maybe the ecosystem has to grow, right? So for example, there's a water supply system in a city. So it's just like an AI also, the governance has to be there, explainable has to be there, sustainable, generation has to be there. And one more thing, as Raghavendra was asking about this, that how the AI is capable. I'll just share the one example, which I did research 1 year back. Maybe you guys can try it your own. If you ask the same question from current chat GPT or whatever model or the application you have, try to run it 10, 20 times, what difference that you see. So I just share my experience. I run the same query on the same night for 1 hour, and then I started running the same query 3, 4 times for 3 months. What you will see, the certain set of keywords are there. They are just arranged in a different pattern in a logical fashion, what you ask. As you're asking about the prompt engineering, so some keywords might be there here and there once you change your certain keywords. But overall gist or takeaway would remain same. So what does it indicate? It indicates, right, it's not learning new. It just has certain things on the back end. It's just trying to produce in front of you. And one more thing was this look and feel about the AI. Yes, it's going to change about the interaction, right? For example, when I see, I am very much, if I need to search something, I am very much fond of typing something. But when I see Gen Z or the next people, they are very much vocab. So they speak out if they want to something. Even something is required, they don't type because they don't feel, I feel comfortable typing. So I think the way of interaction may change in upcoming future. That's why I think the interaction AI or interactive AI would also be into the role in the market. So I would say that we cannot beat again the point what was discussed, that it's AI is just very limited word because it has not seen the word. Like I cannot ask maybe Llama or the model to generate a kind of a creature, let's say a dinosaur, if he has not seen the dinosaur. If it has not seen a horse, it cannot generate horse. It will take his own random assumption and it will start creating maybe a 4 lakh creature with a tail or so. So I think that if something is, it looks like a very child when I see this AI model. So it behaves like a child if he has not taught, if he has not known about a creature like dinosaur or horse, it won't be able to do it out. It just looks out a predefined set of instruction that is coming. I think that's why I think sometimes it fascinates when I look it out the answer. But even same thing, the experiment I did for image also. I did one image for a couple of like a person is standing near a river. So if you keep on repeating, when you try it out with Adobe Firefly, so you will see the same, I think, the presentation or the same kind of graphics over there. So it's very limited. I think that's what discussed, like it does not carry intellectual or a creativity, what Raghavendra was trying to tell, that it cannot create, right? It's going to repeat it out. And maybe something, if that question comes, I think I would also try to add that point, okay, by what time? I think the model is going to remain. You might have seen like ChatGPT is not replying the question of 2024. It has a limited learning capability of 2021 data. So maybe what I would also suggest is a one parameter about time is also quite important, right? So if you're trying to look it out, what the content is generated or transformed or created, at what time or to the what data limitation. I think that is also one of the biggest limitation over there. And that's again, I think, come back to the same point. Again, human remains the human. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Sachin. Obviously, we have to wait and see what kind of technological development going to take place, how the strong AI regime going to come up in the future, whether generative, artificial generative or artificial super AI. And Manish, you told me the best example, the mistake done by Indian Copyright Office, which my friend, Mrs. Pelmetal didn't repeat that mistake. What he had done, Ankit Sani submitted a Raghav AI, out of that Raghav AI, a photograph of Goa sunset and the beautiful painting, my favorite painter, Vincent Van Gogh's Starry Eye photo. The Raghav AI combined and created a new art piece. They submitted. So initially they wanted to reject. By mistake they applied section 2Z, the work of joint authorship. What is the definition? Two or more persons. AI is not a person. How can they give joint authorship to that? They have registered it, but they have to rectify it from the register. Section 54 says, who will rectify? Register of copyright, मैं 6.5 साल काम किया, मेरे पास powers नहीं था. What these people have done? They themselves rectified it. No, register has to move as petition before earlier copyright board, after IPAB, now commercial bench, High Court Delhi, with jurisdiction comes here, Dwarka ka. भैया गलती हो गया, आप permission दो लेकर. Then they have to follow, give a notice to the Raghav AI, Ankit Sani and all that. They didn't do. But they didn't do them. But my question is here, again coming to originality. In 1996, when WIPO Internet Treaty came, WIPO Copyright Treaty, WIPO Performance and Phonogram Treaty, which extended the Berne Convention, Rome Convention to the digital environment. What happened? Without consulting with the member state, WIPO come out with a new draft, the third treaty. That is called the WIPO Treaty for Non-Original Databases. Why they did it? Because the fierce telephone versus, fierce publications versus rural telephone, in American case, which introduced the concept of the minimum degree of creativity with originality, unlike the modicum of creativity with the Supreme Court of Canada, in CCH Canada case, they said that Yellow Pages is only simple database and it doesn't have any originality. So same in Eastern Book Depot versus DB Motor, Supreme Court examined all these things. They said databases, only original databases have the kind of content created by them. Do you think that it is, I already said the question of originality is there. Because the commercial thing is there, do you think countries should introduce a special law to cover this non-original creativity or databases or non-original work created by AI? A new regime has to come. What do you say?
Yeah, that's a very pertinent question. I think the issue arises because it is artificial intelligence, because the word intelligence is there. Otherwise, our Copyright Act is sufficient to protect the computer-generated work to the person who has caused the work to be created. But the problem here is with the intelligence, because the artificial intelligence, it is becoming smarter day by day with the data which is fed to it. So I think there are two levels where the issue arises is with respect to the protection. Is one point where the data is fed to AI to make it smarter, and the second is where there is an output from the AI. Now, this is very interesting because this is the topic where the world, and we are looking forward how the world is trying to adjudicate this issue, that whether the data which is fed to make the AI smarter will amounts to fair use or not. Because if it amounts to fair use, then the only issue will arise whether the work which has been generated and the output which has come by AI is a infringing work, or whether it's a fair use, or it's a work which can be which cannot be no action can be taken against that. In the Beijing case, what has come is that the court has acknowledged the right of the author who had created the image with the help of AI. What the court said that there were so many, almost 120 prompts which were given by the author. Now the question is, so long as there is a human intervention to the AI and there is a modicum of creativity which is this principle is applied to that, and then you can say that that work is protected. But the issue is when there is no human intervention and the AI has become smart enough to, with a very little intervention, it creates something which is either original or infringing, where that has to be adjudicated. And so what I think is, the more regulation is required by the government at the stage where the data is fed to make the AI smarter. And so far as output is concerned, at present, our act is sufficient enough to protect those works where the human intervention is already there. And if the government is able to come out with anything at that stage where the infringing is able to maintain a database of non-original works or infringing works, that would be great. But that is a great challenge to the government to maintain that database.
In 2012, our copyright amendment, drafting the legislation, I missed the bus. So later, I came to know that many countries introduce extending the exception limitation, whatever you call it, fair use or fair dealing, text data mining exceptions. US has done. EU in its single market digital directives introduced text data mining exceptions because EU got this virus from the UK post-Brexit because UK introduced these exceptions, both for the non-commercial purposes because education and research, whatever text data mining happens, even though the subscription, academic journals are there, you can't go and read an article without subscribing it. But there are text data mining tools which culls out the data just like ChatGPT give you a document to you. So is that exception, we have not provided exception for that in the 2012. That is a big dangerous thing our academic community. But somebody commercializes books of, people have already written books and started selling in Amazon, written by AI. So do you think that we need to do some amendments to the Copyright Act and whether the existing licensing as a lawyer is being addressed and whether the exceptions are protected?
No, it's a very important question, and I think across the world we are seeing many cases being filed by copyright owners against these AI models. And I think sooner or later we'll see some landmark judgment which at least gives a guidance not only to that country but also other countries start to follow suit. And I am very much sure that this kind of a judgment is going to only come in favor of copyright owners. Because the work that is created by these authors or by these painters or sculptors or anyone who's owning that copyright is very important. The whole purpose of having a copyright is to promote that creativity, promote that sense of belongingness that you have done something, now you are going to reap benefits out of it. So if we do not give them that benefit, if we take that benefit away from them by let's say by any of the AI models, then the whole purpose of this legislation is going to fail. So I am very much sure that, and I believe that So it's the duty of not only the creators, the copyright owners, it's also the duty of the people who are building these AI tools, and it's also the duty of the businesses as to how they follow whole of this scenario. For, let's say, I'll take one by one, for example, for the copyright owners, it's very important for them to understand what kind of their work is, and they need to be very much aware if their work is getting copied anywhere without their notice. So they need to look at social media or maybe elsewhere, and they need to be very much aware of that. So I think, of course, artists are artists and they keep themselves to their own work, but the time is such that they don't have anything else but to be aware if their work is being infringed or not. Secondly, I think for AI models also, they have to come to an understanding that they have to give certain, they have to take license from copyright owners whenever they use their work or whenever their work is being used. For example, of course, we have reached the heights of technology. So when a prompt is being given by a user and the user is using an artist's name, or let's say he wants that art or output of that prompt to be in a certain style of a particular artist. So the AI model can be developed in certain manner where certain kind of royalty out of that output goes to that particular artist. Third thing could be for businesses. So businesses, when they are using these AI models, they need to have contracts in place with these AI companies, which takes care that they are not infringing upon anyone else's copyright. Or they need to have indemnification clauses within those contracts. Or even with their vendors and their suppliers, if they are not using any of the AI models for the work that these vendors are supplying to these companies. So all of these things are there, and all players, all stakeholders need to have a very close look as to how they can safeguard the interests of basically the owners, the authors of the art. Thank you.
Excellent, Mayank. My last question to Harini started with a girl. I want to end this panel discussion with a girl again. There is a database, I come to know that the Lion 5B database has 6 billion data pertaining to the documents, videos, music and all that. That's what the generative AI leading like Stable Diffusion and Midjourney depend upon. But most of the data is not easily accessible. You know, when the WPO Internet Treaties came in 2012, amendments came, you know, circumvention of technological protection, digital right management, you can't go and simply hack it and scrap it, and because you are giving a prompt, generative AI or ChatGPT give you the data, because, you know, during the COVID time, we got entertainment because we subscribed to Amazon Prime TV and Netflix subscription. 500 rupees diya humne. Every month we, you know, we didn't have that. Sharif, bachchon ko jaisa humne paisa diya, we got entertainment. How come these people break the encryption devices and scrap the data and give it to you? Is it not infringement? How come transformativeness is coming there? Fair use. Please tell me.
No, I think I agree. I think, you know, see, as Manish mentioned, right, there are two aspects. What data is being fed into, there, how do you determine? And then the other part is about the output of it, right? So even like earlier when I was speaking, I was talking about the first part where the data that you are feeding into whatever language models to be able to create, right? If that data is not legally obtained, then obviously it's infringement. There's no question of there is, you know, how you are using the data to train your model, the question of infringement, I think, is almost always coming. The whole point of even the title of this session of fair use is coming because there is an assumption, and it is infringement if there is no permission taken, right, for inputting that data. So obviously we need some sort of way to be able to legally...
I disagree with you because whatever fair use or fair dealing limitation exceptions comes to the limited exception. If you see the Article 10, which gives limitation exception, the WIPO copyright treaty extending the exception limitation from the physical to internet environment, it gives the agreed statement which says that member states can go ahead and devise new exception limitations in the digital environment. This is what we thought of that. In Copyright Amendment 2012, if you see the section 52, subsection 1 B, there we said any transient and incidental copying done by the computer networks, the digital caching happens, that is not infringement of copyright. So what this learning pattern, this scrapping and learning, these AI, LLM models, ChatGPT, generative AI doing, that extent I see as per this law stands now is not infringement. Infringement starts when end product comes out. How you are going to use? You're going to use for your research purposes. There is a research exceptions are there. Still you end up with the plagiarism because you're not giving any citation references. That is a copy pasting you are doing. You get into trouble even though you have an exception. But when you commercialize it, sell it on Amazon, then you have the civil and criminal remedies which all the authors have filed there. Even Getty Images filed case against the generative AI.
Yeah.
So these are. Now we will end this discussion here. The organizers are coming. So give just one sentence statement on fair use content piracy in the era of generative AI, starting from Harini. One sentence.
We have to look out for the guidelines or the jurisprudence, how it's going to develop.
Yeah, both, I'll say, of course, the jurisprudence is going to take its time. Maybe within few months we'll receive something. But I think the interest of copyright owners or the artists needs to be kept in mind. Yeah, thank you.
I would just say, like, yeah, there's a need for more algorithms to identify such kind of issues. Yes, definitely policy. Education is quite important, and so that we can have the what is fair, what is right, what is good or bad, getting awareness at every level. Yeah, thank you.
Looking forward to the regulations from the government in order to regulate the data which is fed into the AI, as well as if the government is able to regulate and seek disclosure from AI owners that what kind of data is being fed and whether the source of the data, then it will be a fantastic and AI can be used for all benefits of the society as well as the business.
American Newspaper Society already signed a licensing agreement with generative AI to use their newspapers. It must have happened after New York Times. If I were a lawyer, I will advise my content owners, authors, or creators, because generative AI started mimicking voice of Sonu Nigam and Shreya Ghoshal starting singing songs. So it is nothing but a version recording. For that you have to take a license. So without consent and compensation, creating any commercial exploitation out of that, creating a new content in the name of transformative work will not work, and Indian law does not recognize, neither Indian law, the TRIPS provisions or Berne Convention or WCT, WPPT, including the Beijing Treaty. And don't give any exceptions for that, any commercialization, and existing exceptions like research and education. Question of plagiarism comes where if you don't give any citation. You ask ChatGPT to give citation to 3,000 word article, it gives hardly 1 or 2. तो आपका तो ना PhD मिलेगा या आपका आर्टिकल छपेगा any journal में. And so it is total plagiarism, total infringement happening with this, and you have to be very careful as members of IP family. Thank you very much. I would like to thank Dr. D.R. Agrawal and his entire GIPC team for holding this excellent conference and bringing everyone under the one big umbrella to exchange our ideas. And I would like to thank Goddess Saraswati also bless all of us to come here and give our knowledge and take knowledge from other panelists. Thanks a lot, Jay.
Thank you very much, sir. I really salute the knowledge and information all of you have shared, especially moderator. Moderator sir, we really liked the way you spoke and the way you coordinated this section in a lively manner. So basically, हमारी नींद खत्म हो गई थी जो हमें खाने के बाद हो रही थी. We felt so energetic with your session. Thank you so much. With this, I will request the moderator to please give a small memento to the speakers.